Hello, everyone. Minasan konnichiwa. Thank you so much for joining us today for our rebroadcast of our Japan-America Society of Georgia's Art in the U.S.-Japan Relationship, a Curator's Perspective with Monika Binsik. Today, we are so pleased to rebroadcast our special program about art in the U.S.-Japan relationship. And we are so pleased to present a special lecture highlighting the unique role that art plays in the U.S.-Japan relations. And we'll be going behind the scenes, looking to Japanese bamboo art from the renowned Abbey collection by Dr. Monika Binsik, Associate Curator of the Japanese Decorative Arts at the Metropolitan Museum of Art in New York City. Without further ado, we would like to get started and thank certainly our sponsors, the National Association of Japan-America Societies, NAJAS, and also the Japan-United States Friendship Commission, or the JUSFC. As this is part of the Richard J. Wood Art Curator Series. To get us started, we would like to ask the president and my good friend of the National Association of Japan-American Societies, Mr. Peter Kelly. Peter-san, yoroshiku onegai shimasu.
Thank you, Yoshi, and thanks to the Japan-American Society of Georgia for putting on this program. I'm speaking to you from sunny Boston. It's not normally sunny here this time of year. We like that. I want to welcome all of you to the rebroadcast of this talk. It's part of the Richard J. Wood Art Curator Series, which has been going on for 5 years. 5 years ago, the National Association of Japan-American Societies teamed with the Japan-U.S. Friendship Commission to create this series. The purpose was to call attention to wonderful collections of Japanese art that are located in American museums. They've had such an impact on the U.S.-Japan relationship since the 19th century and continue to have that. We wanted to let people know about the art, but also about the collectors. Why are those collections in American museums? And who collected them? To date, we've done 20 of these programs around the country in the last 5 years. This year, this is the fourth in the 2020 series. The previous series were Dr. Andreas Marx from the Minneapolis Institute of Art, speaking about the Murray textile collection there. Dr. Xiaojin Wu of the Seattle Asian Art Museum, talking about the reorganization and reopening of that museum. Dr. Rachel Saunders spoke about the Feinberg collection at the Harvard University Art Museums. And today, Monika Binsik will talk about the Abbey collection of bamboo at the Metropolitan Museum of Art. This is the third time the Metropolitan Museum of Art has participated in this series, and actually the second time in Georgia. John Carpenter earlier talked about the Mary Griggs Burke collections during the exhibition that was held at the Met. We are very grateful to the curators. It's the curators that make these talks, and we're very grateful to the curators for participating. And we're also grateful to the funder of this series, the Japan-United States Friendship Commission, and Kulcon, which have an interest in promoting the relationship, the cultural relationship between the United States and Japan. We thank you all for joining it, and we hope that you will enjoy the presentation about the Abbey collection at the Metropolitan Museum of Art.
Thank you so much, Peter. And at this time, we'd like to introduce our special guest speaker, Miss Monika Binsik. Ohayou gozaimasu, Monika-san. Monika-sensei desu ne.
いやいやいや、おはようございます。皆さんよろしくお願いいたします。It is a great pleasure to join you this morning, and I would like to thank first of all the organizers for this kind invitation. Today's program is about collecting Japanese decorative arts at the Metropolitan Museum of Art, and I'm going to focus on the Abbey collection of Japanese bamboo. Without further ado, let me start my presentation. I'm going to share my screen. In 2017, the Metropolitan Museum hosted the first bamboo exhibition in its history, focusing on a private collection from Diane and Arthur Abbey, New Yorkers and longtime collectors of Japanese bamboo art. In this presentation, I'm going to introduce the exhibition, the collection, and some of the highlights of the Abbey bamboo pieces. Before going to the details of the bamboo collection, I would like to briefly talk about the background of collecting Japanese decorative arts at the Met. The history of collecting Japanese decorative arts and textiles started at the Met when Edward C. Moore's collection entered the museum in 1891. Moore was a silverware designer working for Tiffany & Company. His collection consisted of approximately 800 works and included a wide array of objects: metalwork, textile, no robes, lacquerware, inro, netscape, and of course, Japanese bamboo art. He used the collection to draw inspiration for his designs for Tiffany. As you can see, a wonderful variety of the Japanese decorative arts in the Abbey, in the Moore collection inspired the Tiffany silverware. You can see a metal vase imitating a bamboo basket, a bamboo flower vase imitating a gourd, and a beautiful small hanging flower vase with inlays of dragonflies and ivy leaves. Moore drew inspiration for Tiffany silver, not just copying these Japanese patterns, but redesigning them and merging them into his own unique style, which was extremely popular at the end of the 19th century. When the Edward C. Moore collection entered the museum in 1891, it was immediately shared with the public. And as you can see in this old black and white photograph, even Japanese bamboo was on view in this very early exhibition of Japanese decorative arts. Please have a look at the bamboo basket under the vitrine, under the freestanding vitrine, and you will see a huge, beautiful Chinese style basket. We learned later, when I was studying the collection, that this piece was made by Hayakawa Shokosai I. Hayakawa Shokosai I is the first Japanese bamboo artist who started to sign his pieces. This bamboo work is made in the Chinese style, and I will explain later what is the difference between the Chinese style plating and the Japanese style plating. Japanese bamboo is a very important part of the everyday life in Japan. Bamboo grows extensively almost every part of Japan. However, the qualities of the bamboo grown in each geographic region are different. Bamboo is present in nearly every aspect of traditional Japanese art. It was very often represented in Japanese painting and during heavy weather, such as rain or snow, reflecting its reputation for being flexible but unbreakable, and its association with steadfastness and loyalty. This beautiful lacquer box is decorated with a bamboo grove, and inside of the lacquer box, you would find 2 volumes of the tale of the bamboo cutter, the Taketori Monogatari. The tale of the bamboo cutter tells the story of a tiny baby discovered by an old, impoverished bamboo cutter inside a glowing bamboo stalk. They name her Kaguya Hime, shining princess, who grows to be a rare beauty, and the story ends with a surprising discovery that he is actually from the moon, and she's going to return there at the end of the story. This lacquer object shows the popularity of the bamboo pattern and also the popularity of literature featuring bamboo. Beautiful ceramics were also made with bamboo patterns, such as this blue and white hirado ware for the tea ceremony. It's a water jar with bamboo patterns imitating ink painting. The gradation of the bamboo pattern is beautifully done. It's a very high quality blue and white porcelain made in Arita. The Met's exhibition was organized broadly into 3 sections according to geographical areas of bamboo production, divided into Kansai, Kanto, and Kyushu. The exhibition started with the introduction of Kansai, the Osaka and Kyoto area. I'm going to follow the story of the exhibition, the narrative of the exhibition in this presentation, and we'll proceed to introduce the bamboo history from Kansai to Kanto, and we'll end my presentation with the introduction of Kyushu bamboo art. Before going into the details about bamboo art, I would like to introduce Diane and Arthur Abbey, the collectors. They live in New York, just across from the museum. They always loved the mat, and they were friends of the museum for a long time. They started collecting Japanese bamboo art in the 1990s, inspired by the collection of Lloyd Kotzen. The Kotzen collection was shown in New York at the Asia Society, and that was the first major exhibition of Japanese bamboo art in the New York area. The Abbeys fall in love with bamboo and put together a major collection of more than 200 pieces, including masterworks by living national treasures. In their home, they use bamboo art, and they often display Japanese baskets together with European modern paintings or sculptures by Calder or South American textiles, and they enjoy these juxtapositions. They also have Art Deco glass and Art Deco decorative arts, and I was very interested in seeing how they combine the bamboo with other parts of their collection. And I had to recognize that Japanese bamboo goes very well with almost everything. And it is really interesting to see how the collectors enjoy and rotate their own collection in the apartment. Before introducing the Japanese bamboo traditions in the Kansai area in Osaka and Kyoto, I would like to say a few words about the Sencha Tea Ceremony. You might be very familiar with the Japanese style tea, the wabicha, which is based on whipping pulverized tea, the matcha, and enjoy it as part of the Japanese tea ceremony. But there was another tea tradition in Japan, which was introduced by Ingen Ryuki, founder of the Obaku school of Zen Buddhism in the 17th century. In the Sencha tea ceremony, high quality loose green tea leaves are steeped, a style of brewing popularized in China during the Ming Dynasty. If you have a good look at the portrait of Ingen Ryuki, you will see a fly whisk in his left hand. One of the Kansai artists, Hayakawa Shokosai III, created a bamboo fly whisk. So you can see Sencha tea traditions were extremely important, and it's a playful art form. This is a piece of ladyfinger bamboo. The artist found it in the bamboo grove and turned it into this Sencha object. In the exhibition, and it was a new feature of representing bamboo art and displaying baskets, I juxtaposed paintings with baskets and incorporated lacquers and ceramics in the exhibition. In this case, you can see a beautiful 14th century Chinese ink painting in the background representing rocks and the bamboo grove. It is one of the masterpieces from the Met's Chinese painting collection. In front of the painting, a selection from the Abbey collection related to the Sencha tea culture, including a portable basket, which was used for a picnic where you can go out with your Sencha tea utensils, enjoy tea, and compose a poem or have a good time with your friends. This piece was made by Hayakawa Shokosai I, who studied traditional craft of rattan plating in Kyoto. Rattan, a collective name for species of spiny climbing or trailing palms grown mainly in Southeast Asia, is often used in basketry because it's more pliant than bamboo. Shokosai came to prominence in 1877 when one of his Sencha works, a lidded basket, very similar to this one, received the Phoenix Prize at the first domestic industrial exposition. You can see the variety of plating techniques. They look like as the basket was made of sort of stripes, demonstrating the skills of the artist. All these plating techniques are inspired by Chinese basketry. These are very tightly woven rattan strips, and the basket was designed to hold teacups and tea utensils for Sencha tea. This is a quite unusual work by the same artist, Shokosai I, who became very popular after receiving rewards at the domestic exhibitions. And he made Western style rattan bowler hats, which became a popular fashion item around the 1880s. And Ichikawa Danjuro, who was the most famous kabuki actor in the region, also owned this bowler hat and helped to create a brand for Shokosai's workshop. Shokosai, the second son of the first Shokosai, created this beautiful flower basket. As you can immediately see, the plating style is very different. It is the so-called coarse wave, ara-ami in Japanese, and it emphasizes the natural beauty of rattan. It's not as tightly woven as the portable basket, and the artists created this wonderful texture by combining a piece of twisted bamboo, which is the handle of the flower basket, and the body of the coarse wave rattan. In Japan, the basic form of passing down knowledge and experience was the formation of familial lineages. In the traditional world of bamboo art, a typical apprenticeship lasted as long as 10 years or more, requiring hard work from the young apprentice almost every day in exchange for little or no pay at all. The story of how Japanese bamboo art evolved in the 19th and 20th centuries is thus in many ways the story of these prominent artistic lineages. Shokosai V became a designated living national treasure in 2003. The split smoked bamboo fruit tray in the Abbey collection is a prime example of his style, and you can see how bamboo art evolved in the Hayakawa Shokosai family. Another artist, Higashi Takesonosai, also from Kyoto, is well known for his penchant for unique structural compositions made with parallel construction. As you can see in this piece, the bamboo is split into very thin stripes, and the form is created with parallel lines. It's not a plating technique. It's more like building the piece from parallel bamboo strips. He became very well known as an artist creating large sculptural works. And this piece was awarded with a special recognition award at the 1971 Nitten exhibition. As I mentioned, in the exhibition, I juxtaposed bamboo art with paintings and decorative arts. And this flower cart by Kato Toshosai is a fun piece. These kind of flower carts were used for large flower compositions, ikebana compositions, which were given as gifts, or they were created for a festive occasion. And in the background, there is a folding screen by Kano Chikanobu celebrating the 7 gods of good fortune. And there are lots of small Chinese boys, karako, pushing a large flower cart similar to the actual bamboo object with a composition made of peonies. This is very auspicious and represents good luck. Another Kansai-based bamboo artist, Vada Waichisai, established an equally important and long-lasting lineage of masters. This case highlights works by the Tanabe family members from the 1st generation through the 4th generation. Again, in the background, a beautiful Chinese ink painting depicting a bamboo grove. Vada Waichisai became a bamboo craftsman later in life in Osaka and was known for his precise, delicate plating technique and sencha tea-related baskets. This piece, as you can immediately see, follows the Chinese basketry traditions. It's very tightly plated, and the shape and the texture was inspired by Chinese bronzes, which is very typical in the sencha tea tradition, and Chinese objects were very popular among the literati circles in Kansai. This work by Sakaguchi Shounsai, called Moon Reflected on Water, made in 1929, is probably the most important work in the Abbey collection. Until 1927, no decorative arts and no bamboo works were accepted at government-sponsored exhibition. It was called the Imperial Art Academy Exhibition, Taiten in Japanese. And it was only in 1927 when bamboo and decorative arts were incorporated in these shows. And the first bamboo art accepted to the Taiten was this work by Sakaguchi Shounsai. It's a groundbreaking piece. Technically speaking, it's a masterwork. As you can see, the basket was created from a single piece of bamboo. The roundels on the left and the right side show you how the bamboo was beautifully split and plated to create the fruit tray, which is called kudamono kago in Japanese. It's of course extremely difficult to split the bamboo this way. I'm sure the artist had to throw away a lot of experimental pieces until he was able to create this perfect example. And it's not only the technique, but the subject. In the middle of the basket, there is a lighter disc, which represents the moon as if it reflects in water. This is a painterly subject, and the artist was able to show it as part of bamboo art. Both the technical, the quality of the technique and the idea to do a painterly subject in three-dimensional form earned him a very high reputation. The first member of the Tanabe family was Tanabe Chikunsai I, who created a new style, again inspired by Chinese examples, such as this hanging flower basket that was designed for flower compositions, and the flowers and the leaves would be overflowing over the edge of this hanging piece. As a big shift in bamboo art, later in the 20th century, bamboo artists made decorative works, sculptures using bamboo. Tanabe Chikunsai III created this work using arrow bamboo, which is very strong, very stiff. In the Edo period, the arrow bamboo was actually used to make arrows for samurai. And this piece is a sculpture created of bamboo arrows, which is a new idea, a new style established by these very well-known artists from Kansai. The fourth, Tanabe Chikunsai, he is the current representative of the family, is very well trained in traditional basketry. This is one of his masterworks from 2015 called Setting Sail. It's very tightly woven. The technique follows the Chinese traditions. It's for a flower composition. There is a tube where you can put flowers in it. So it's a very traditional artwork. However, the young artist was trained in sculpture at the Tokyo University of the Arts, and he creates large-scale bamboo compositions. This big piece, it's a huge sculpture, was created especially for the Metz exhibition in 2017. It's called The Gate, and it was at the entrance of the show. So the visitors walked into the exhibition under this beautiful sculpture, and they could see the structure and the plating technique typical of the Tanabe family. The piece is made of tiger bamboo, which has a beautiful pattern of light brown colors. I would like to show you a short movie about the construction of this piece. So Tanabe-san visited us with 3 of his very talented female assistants, and I was very happy to see the young generation growing up learning about the traditional bamboo techniques. Now I'm going to move to Kanto, focusing on the Tokyo area. Among the artist craftsmen who helped transform Kanto bamboo art was the Iizuka family, especially Iizuka Hosai II. This document box was made by him in 1923, and it has an inkstone and a water dropper, just as if it was a lacquer writing box. It's a very high quality artwork, again, inspired by Chinese plating techniques. It's a set with a document box. And we have a letter by the artist stating that this is a replica of an original presented to the Meiji Emperor. It's a very important piece. Again, just as I did with Kansai artists, I juxtaposed works from the Iizuka family with folding screens and paintings. This box by Iizuka Rokansai, who is the most well-known bamboo artist in the Kanto area, is created with a new technique. It's a layering. So there is a background, which is a twill-plated bamboo structure, on top of which there is an additional layer, which was created with irregular plating. He was the one who transformed bamboo art in the Tokyo area, and he became the leader of a movement to transform Japanese bamboo art from crafts into an art form. This flower basket represents another style, again by Rokansai. It's a parallel construction. As you can see, beautiful straight lines create the body of the basket. It looks extremely modern. However, it was made in the 1950s. Again, another style. It was made by Iizuka Shokansai, the son of the famous Rokansai. Iizuka Shokansai, of course, trained with his father and became a living national treasure in 1982. And this large flower basket was displayed in the exhibition with an ikebana composition made of fake flowers, because most of these flower baskets were designed for ikebana, for flower compositions. But in the museum, we can't show living flowers. So in a few baskets, I created these compositions to show how the baskets would look like with the flowers in them. Another piece by Shokansai. This is a technique which was inspired by a work in the Sho sewing collection, which is the oldest art collection in Japan, if you wish, established in Nara. It is adjacent to the Todaiji Temple, and it contains ancient Chinese and Japanese artworks. And the pattern was inspired by one of the Sho sewing treasures. At the same time, especially as the Abbeys described it, it's very similar to South American textiles, and it fitted perfectly into the Abbey collection. It was made around the 1970s in a preparation of an exhibition piece made by Shokansai. The technique is so difficult that the artist can make maybe less than an inch a day. So you can imagine how time-consuming the production process is. Again, another style by Iizuka Shokansai. It's a bundle plating technique. Bundles of finely cut bamboo are hauled together and then spread out to create the body. As I mentioned, lineages are very important in Japanese bamboo art. Katsushiro Soho is one of the current living national treasures of Japanese bamboo art. And he is a member of the Iizuka family lineage. You can immediately recognize the same bundle plating technique in the center of the basket. This work was inspired by bellflowers, a very humble flower, and the artist created this beautiful piece in 2012. Another living national treasure, Fujinoma Noboru, made this work called Peerless. Fujino Manoboru started in engineering and photography before he became a bamboo artist. This piece is very special for him because it was made in 2012, the year when he was designated a living national treasure. This is one of his recent masterworks, again, demonstrating the Izuka style plating techniques. I would like to introduce the artist. He visited New York 3 times and gave demonstrations to our audiences. These were very, very popular. Another gallery view from the exhibition showing contemporary works from the Kanto area, focusing on Niigata, juxtaposed with a kimono by Moriguchi Kako. Honma Hideaki is working on Sado Island off the coast of Niigata Prefecture and employs a local variety of bamboo, which is called menyadake, which is very soft and very flexible. This work is inspired by the island's flora and fauna. The island is surrounded by the sea, and the artist used his imagination to capture the idea of waves. So this work might remind you of The Great Wave by Hokusai, which is the most famous print in the history of Japanese art, and it captures the same idea, the same feeling. Tori Ippo is from Aichi Prefecture, and he is the son of a local bamboo craftsman, started to copy his father's works, and then later he turned into an artist working in the sculptural group. And this work from 2006 brings together 2 colors. It's a layered sculpture. The outside is undyed blonde bamboo, while the inside is covered in lacquer, in urushi. It looks dark brown. And the artist used the juxtaposition of these 2 colors to create this very impressive sculpture. Nagakura Kenichi is an independent artist. He did not belong to any of the family lineages, and his works are inspired by Western sculpture, including Pablo Picasso, Brancusi, Henry Moore, or Giacometti. He is one of the favorite artists of the Abbeys, and Diane especially loves this composition entitled Woman. You can imagine a beautiful woman stepping ahead with her right foot, and the sculpture captures this movement. At the same time, it's a traditional flower vase. It's made of 1 single piece of bamboo, again, split beautifully. On the top, you can see how small the bamboo piece was before the artist split it and created this intriguing sculpture. The last section of the exhibition focused on Kyushu, the southernmost island of Japan. And Shono Shousai is a crucial artist, a crucial figure of Kyushu bamboo art. He was born in Beppu, and he focused on Chinese style basketry and became one of the leading artists of bamboo. As a turning point in the history of bamboo art, he became the first artist designated a living national treasure in 1967. This is one of his early masterworks from 1947, showing his twill plating technique. Honda Shoryu is a contemporary artist working in Kyushu and creates undulating complex sculptures with light, open work textures. Dense, made of thinly twined bamboo that has been dyed and lacquered in warm colors, is composed of 2 sections twisted together. Meticulous twining was required to join the thin bamboo strips, each of which is a fraction of an inch, but 10 feet long. Once the net-like structure was prepared, the piece was softened in hot water and kneaded into shape. One of the last cases of the exhibitions featured contemporary Kyushu artists. You can see the great variety of shapes and colors, again juxtaposed with a contemporary screen by a female artist. This presentation was just a very short introduction to the history of Japanese bamboo art and to the Abbey collection. And I hope that we will meet again and discuss further the Metropolitan Museum's Decorative Arts collection. Thank you very much for your attention.
Great. Thank you so much, Monika Sensei. That was just a wonderful presentation, and just made me wish that I was there in person to kind of see all the beautiful works, and certainly see you in person too. It just kind of reminded me how art is timeless, right? It just gives you a glimpse into kind of all the different eras in time in our history. So gosh, that was just a very fun and educational adventure that we just kind of took in time. So thank you so much. And on a personal note, kind of had me kind of a personal connection in that my father's family is from Osaka in the Kansai region, right? And then I was born just outside of Tokyo in Kawasaki in the Kanto region. And then now in Kyushu is the home of Fukuoka and Kagoshima, and Fukuoka is Atlanta's sister city, and Kagoshima is Georgia's sister state, sister prefecture. So kind of took me on a little personal kind of, I guess, a history and adventure as well. So thank you so much for that. But on I guess, speaking of a personal note, I just want to kind of ask you a few questions during our Q&A session. So how did you get started in art, and kind of what was your first experience in decorative art, and maybe share with us kind of your adventures with kind of how you got started and how you became a curator at the Metropolitan Museum of Art.
Yes, with pleasure. Thank you so much. I think that this bamboo exhibition was a groundbreaking show for the Met. And this is not the end of a long journey, but a major turning point for me personally as a curator as well. I was born in Hungary, and I started as an art historian focusing on 19th century European painting. And I came across Japanese woodblock prints, and I was fascinated by the colors, by the compositions, and I wanted to read the inscriptions on the prints. So I started to study Japanese. And then later I encountered lacquer works in a small Hungarian museum in Budapest. And I was just fascinated by the beauty of the gold and silver sprinkled technique, the maquille technique. And I decided this is what I want to study. So I had to realize that in Europe, there is no sensei who would be able to teach me about Japanese lacquer art. So I applied for a fellowship to the Monbusho, and I got to Kyoto, which later became my second hometown. And I was a student at Kyoto University and started my PhD there. And I ended up as a specialist looking at Japanese lacquer, but then I expanded my expertise. So now I'm working with ceramics, with textile, with bamboo. And I worked for a Japanese private university in Kyoto later. I was a researcher. And later I was invited to the Met to accept a curatorial fellowship. And I moved to New York with my library. And I started to work with the Met's decorative art collection, which was a great experience. I learned so much, and I was extremely fortunate because they decided to hire me as an assistant curator. And then later on, when the Abbeys launched the project with the Met, and the exhibition was really well received. We had more than 400,000 visitors to see the bamboo show. The Abbeys endowed a position especially for Japanese decorative arts, which is the first position in the United States dedicated to Japanese decorative arts. And I'm extremely proud because that's going to elevate the field. In many museums, there are wonderful collections of ceramics and metalwork and lacquer, but the sort of knowledge about Japanese decorative arts is behind our knowledge on paintings or prints, like two-dimensional art forms. So I really feel that it's a perfect timing to start to talk and discuss further Japanese decorative arts and educate the American audience about these art forms.
Great, thank you so much. So not only is art timeless, but it also crosses long distances too, I guess, yes. Bringing people from Hungary and other parts of Europe, from the US and North America to Japan, right? So thank you. And as you mentioned, so your curatorship is the first endowed position of the Japanese decorative arts in the history of the Met. So you must have a very special relationship with the Abbeys and Miss Diane and Mr. Arthur Abbey. I know you must have so many stories, but can you share maybe one or two fun stories about the Abbeys and what made them so unique as collectors of Japanese art? Because I know each piece has a story in itself, but then there's such a unique and fun story about the collector as well. So can you share maybe a little bit more about the Abbeys?
Yeah, they are fantastic. We have a very good relationship, and we got to know each other very well. It took more than 2 years for me to prepare for the show, and we worked together. So I spent a lot of time working with them, going through the collection, studying the pieces, and we wanted to bring the best of the best to the mat. So we collected almost 40 works together, which meant that I went to Japan. I was in touch with collectors and dealers and acquired masterpieces that were eventually included in the show. And of course, there are lots of stories about acquiring the works, talking with the Abbeys. But one of the best memories I have is our trip to Japan. We visited Japan together with the Abbeys, and we traveled. We visited Kyushu. We visited the Kansai area. We spent some time in Tokyo, and it was really great to talk to the artists. I think that for the Abbeys and also for myself, these are the best moments when you have a craftsman in his workshop showing us the tools, showing us bamboo, showing us the latest artwork. And we can have a conversation about the inspiration behind the pieces, because for most of the historical pieces, we don't have this chance anymore to talk to the artist. And I thought that it was very special for the Abbeys and for me. And all the artists are really wonderful. We had lots of fun. And as you know, in Japan, you always go out for dinner, a couple of drinks. And those are, again, really good memories of working with the collectors, with the artists, and learning so much about the history of Japanese bamboo art and decorative arts in general.
Well, I would have loved to shadow you all and just be a fly on the wall and just kind of listen to all the wonderful conversations that you all had, not only with the Abbeys, but with all the artists too. So, but you've curated a variety of exhibitions, certainly in New York and Kyoto and in Europe too. But you have an exciting exhibit coming up, I believe, in 2022. And I know you're already preparing for all the big things happening, but can you share some about kind of some of your past exhibits, but then also some of your future things coming up at the Met?
Yes. So while working at the Met, I was part of several exhibitions. The first show I curated for the Met was called Discovering Japanese Art. It was in 2015, and it highlighted the history of collecting Japanese art in the Met. The exhibition was to celebrate the anniversary of our department. So it was very timely to show how American collectors developed an interest in Japanese art. And I did my first PhD in the history of collecting Japanese art. So it was fun to visualize what I was researching and bring together the exhibits. I was also very pleased that the beginning of collecting at the Met was the decorative arts. So the very first collections that came to the museum, I highlighted the Edward C. Moore collection in my presentation, but also the Habermeyers and some other very famous collectors really were interested in ceramics, in metal works, in lacquer art, and these works were displayed in their apartments. So it's a fascinating story to think that how they ended up in the Met's collection. And I'm also enjoying rethinking about their interpretation, because back in the 19th century, we didn't know anything about the names of the artists or when or how these works were made. They were just beautiful objects. But now we have a lot more information about the individual artists or the history of the workshops. And it's a great fun to revisit these objects and try to think about their production and how and when they came to the United States. It's really like the objects are ambassadors and this is about your program as well, building connections between Japan and America, and the objects are a very important part of building these bridges between Japan and the US. Of course, the Abbey bamboo exhibition was a special show, and actually traveled to Japan because in Japan, they felt that knowing more about the American understanding of bamboo might help for the field, because it's a very different approach than the Japanese have. The Japanese look at bamboo sometimes as part of the ikebana traditions or as part of the tea tradition. And there is a different world for the contemporary sculptures. And the Abbey collection brings together all three worlds, which is very rare in Japan to see an exhibition featuring all these together. So it was a unique opportunity to work with curators in Japan and show the Abbey collections in 3 Japanese museums. So it was an excellent opportunity to learn more about bamboo. And in these exhibitions, we combined the bamboo with other art forms, including textile, including ceramics, including lacquer. So it was a new way to introduce bamboo art. So in the upcoming exhibition, I'm going to focus on textile art, especially on kimono. And now I'm in the process of conceiving an exhibition highlighting the late Edo and early 20th century traditions in Japanese kimono. And I'm very excited about working with kimono. And I hope it's going to be an interesting subject for people interested in Western fashion, because I'm planning to juxtapose the Japanese kimono with Western designers who were inspired by the shape or the patterns of kimono.
Oh yeah, I love it. Guys, I can't wait, and hopefully I'll get to visit you in person in New York, 2022. And
yes,
kimono,
please.
Yeah, I'm sure it's already generating a whole lot of buzz, and people are wanting to kind of get to the museum and see the exhibit. And I know how much Japanese fashion, both traditional and contemporary, has a big impact on Western fashion too, and vice versa. So it should be very interesting. So looking forward to it, certainly. So Monika Sensei, just a couple more questions, but you have published so many articles on Japanese decorative arts and collecting history. Where can people learn more about Japanese art and more about your work specifically?
I think that the best way is to look up the Met's website. We have a website with some of my publications listed. I know that it will sound funny, but if you Google my name, many of these publications will come up. Unfortunately, about the history of Japanese decorative arts, there are not as many publications as about prints and paintings, but there are very good books and exhibition catalogs published over the years. So I think that if somebody wants to learn more about these art forms, there is English literature. And for the Abbey Bamboo exhibition, the museum published a bulletin in 2017, which is on the website, and you can read it online. You might be even able to download it, I think, but you can certainly read it online. And many of the Met's publications are online. So you can use this, and also you can use the Watson Library to look for resources and bibliography.
Wonderful. So I encourage everyone tuning in to visit the Metropolitan Museum of Art's website, or just look up Monika Sensei, Monika Binsick, and then all the different articles that she mentioned will certainly come up too, right? So, but I know these are certainly challenging times for all of us, maybe more so for a lot of cultural institutions, not only nonprofits, but a lot of museums in the art world too. What can we do individually and then as a community to help support the the art world, the museums of the world? What can we do individually, but as I guess also collectively to kind of support you and support the different kind of institutions right now to ensure that we can keep our kind of cultural centers of influence and the very important role that culture plays? How can we keep it going during these challenging times?
So right now, because travel is very difficult, I cannot invite you, but of course, I would love you to visit the museum and see our galleries. Right now, you can visit the website, and we have a special exhibition website. Now in the museum, you would see the Kyoto exhibition, which I curated last year, and we rotated it several times. But again, if you visit the Met's website, you can see sort of a virtual representation of the exhibition. You can walk through, you can see the works, you can read the labels. And I created an introduction with the text panel. So each section is described. And you can learn a lot about Kyoto, which was the capital of Japan for more than 1,000 years. It has a very rich cultural history. And because you cannot travel, you cannot go to Japan, I recommend it as a virtual journey to Japan. If you walk through the show, it feels like you could just go to Kyoto, have a look at the beautiful architecture, paintings, lacquers, textiles, and enjoy a cup of tea. We have a tea room, and you can see a display of tea utensils from the early 17th century, focusing on Sennorikyu. So I highly recommend that you visit the website. And maybe next year we can meet in person and enjoy the collection of the museum together. Of course, there are many, many ways to support museums, and there are many ways to be part of the art world. And it really depends on whether you want to collect art, or you want to be a patron of the museum, or you just want to visit regularly, which is a great support for the museums. What I would like to mention is that collecting contemporary Japanese decorative arts, it's a great help for the field in Japan, because many of the contemporary decorative artists having an issue to find patrons in Japan, because as you know, the Japanese homes are relatively small. So it's sometimes difficult for the Japanese to put together collections of bamboo or ceramic or lacquer, but the artists are always very excited if one of their pieces comes to the United States, enters a private collection or a museum collection, because it's not only a recognition, but it's also a great support. Many of these fields, including certain bamboo styles, including certain textile production, is sort of dying out in Japan. So I mentioned lineages in the presentation. We don't have enough young artists because it's extremely difficult to make a living. Just to imagine if you make baskets and you cannot sell them, what do you do? So it's very difficult to keep these traditions alive in the 21st century. So I feel that it's very important for the Japanese to see the support coming from the US, from Europe, and to be able to say that my piece is in the Metropolitan Museum of Art's collection. That's a great way to keep these traditions alive.
Wonderful. So yeah, everyone tuning in, certainly there are so many ways to support the art world, the museums in your community. So not only monetarily, as patrons, you can visit, but as Monika Sensei just mentioned, maybe the best way and most important is to expand that interest, raise awareness, and keep the traditions alive by sharing your love, sharing your interest in art to the younger generations, right? So
curiosity is a key, and being open-minded and being open to new fields. Mm-hmm. The bamboo is a new field in the United States. It's a relatively new way to talk about Japanese decorative arts. And I was really excited to see that the visitors really enjoyed and engaged with the exhibition. And it showed this curiosity, which is part of this cultural relationship. You have to be interested in the other and try to explore it. And that's one of the key features of what we do every day.
Wonderful. And I know you mentioned this kind of all throughout your presentation and even during our Q&A session just now, but so to kind of close things out, so what unique role does art play in the U.S.-Japan relationship, do you think? Any final messages of hope and advice for people to kind of keep art close to our hearts? Yeah, so kind of any kind of final closing messages about how to keep art within our hearts and kind of the unique role it plays in U.S. and also international relations.
Yeah, first of all, it was a great pleasure to join you and to be part of this program, because I see it as a new connection for me to meet you, to meet your audience. I wish I could be with you in person. And I was really looking forward to talk to you in person, and I hope we can do it at some time. But I think this is really important, that you make connections between people and you bring experience this time digitally. And, you know, we have to keep doing these kind of programs. And as a curator, I'm planning to do more and more exhibitions highlighting Japanese decorative arts, introducing more collections, and do hope that it's going to help the American audience to learn more about bamboo, metalworks, textiles, ceramic art, and welcome more collectors, scholars, students, and the audience, not only in our galleries, but on our website, and make more connections.
Wonderful. Well, thank you so much, Monika. I was going to say a virtual round of applause for a wonderful presentation. And we were so lucky to be able to do this twice. So thank you. But to close out our program, we would like to bring back Mr. Peter Kelly to talk about some exciting news about this series. And hopefully we have a lot of wonderful things that we can kind of look forward to in the art world in the U.S.-Japan relations. Thanks so much, Monika Sensei.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Yoshi, and thank you, Monika. It's what an interesting presentation. I was debating which one my favorite was. I felt like, Monika, I should ask you which one your favorite was. Do you have a favorite?
It's hard because they are all my babies, so it's hard to pick one.
Yes.
I enjoy all of them, so I don't have one. I have many.
Well, one of them I thought was particularly interesting was the one you mentioned. I believe it was called Woman, where you had the narrow neck at the top, and then you realized exactly how much detailed work that they needed to do to create that. That's a modern one, I guess. Yeah.
Yes, and that's also the favorite of Diane Abbey. So you have the same taste.
Okay, so that's 2 votes for it.
Yes, 2 very strong votes.
Well, this year, we were very happy to be able to introduce the decorative arts into this series. 2 of the presentations this time, one on the Murray collection of textiles at the Minneapolis Institute of Art, and yours, Monika, broaden the coverage of this program, and we're delighted to see that. And we hope that all of you who are watching or will watch it will remember it's just a short flight from Atlanta to New York, and the Met is open, Monika tells us. So if you are able to get there, I'm sure you'll enjoy it. We do have, through the generosity of the Japan-U.S. Friendship Commission, this program, which we apply for grants annually, has been approved for next year. So next year's collections that will be featured are the painting collection at the Freer Gallery of the Smithsonian Institution in New York, the woodblock prints from the Boston Museum of Fine Arts and from the Ringling Museum in Sarasota, Florida. And the last is a near neighbor of Monika's in New York, the Noguchi Art Museum in Brooklyn. So they'll be there too. There'll be a bit of a different kind of collection. I mean, different kinds of collections, and also from the 19th century and the 20th century. We offer these programs to our members on a competitive basis. So I'm sure that I hope that the Japan America Society of Georgia will be an applicant again. And let me close by saying how pleased we are. These talks really are, the curators are what makes them, And Monika, you did a wonderful job, and we are so pleased to find out about that unique aspect of the Metropolitan Museum of Art's collection. Thank you, and thank you to the Japan American Society of Georgia for putting this on.
Great, thank you again, Monika Sensei, and
thank you so
for
much.
all of us. We'll be visiting you in New York very soon, and we will have to invite you to Atlanta again too, and look forward to continue collaborating together and promoting Japanese art. But we do have a few more events coming up this month for everyone tuning in. Next week, we have the International Women's Series, in which we collaborate and partner with 6 other international chambers. We'll be doing a Atlanta Community Food Bank program, where we talk about how the food bank is navigating the current challenges of the pandemic, and an interactive program, and how people can get involved in making sure that the community is well fed, and we are able to share all the resources we can to the people in need. And then just a few days later, we will have our virtual Bonenkai in the end of the year, forget the year party, and what better year to forget than this year, right? So,
year to forget.
So, yes, so everyone join us for all of our upcoming events, and certainly thank you to Peter Kelly and the National Association of Japan America Societies for being able to offer this program. And we really appreciate all the support, certainly. And we also want to encourage everyone to visit Monika's exhibit online if you can't get there in person with the New York Metropolitan Museum of Art. So thank you again, everyone. Stay safe, be healthy, and we will see you again very soon. Take care. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.